Donovan Dent is the piece UCLA needed to become a top 10 contender, and he'll be better than Tyger Campbell ever was. Why? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free where we get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. It's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Where we get started today, UCLA is trying to reconstruct its roster in a 2-year process. Part A, 6 transfers last year, led to a lot more UCLA success and a return to the NCAA tournament. This year, they're trying to level up, win the Big Ten tournament, get to the NCAA tournament, and go beyond just the first weekend and go deep. So today, we talk about Donovan Dent's importance to UCLA. Is he the missing piece? Is he the missing, quote-unquote, Tyger Campbell? And why will he be better or potentially better than Tyger ever was? Well, Mick Cronin demands a lot of his point guard. A lot. In the last 2 years, we've seen the Dylan Andrews experiment. Sometimes we've seen Skyy Clark, Sebastian Mack handling the basketball. In the last 2 seasons, UCLA was not as successful on offense. Sometimes a turnover machine, while they had some athletic defense and Mack was a great driver to the paint, Bruins were certainly missing something, all right? Tyger Campbell, you looked at him, UCLA, super successful. We look at the Johnny Juzangs, we look at the Jaime Jacqueses of the world, even Jules Bernard, but we always forget about Tyger Campbell, right? The guy who's not necessarily going to have that NBA career, but the glue guy to help UCLA reach the Final Four, reach the Sweet 16, and reach the Sweet 16 again on a Pac-12 regular season championship team. This is what Donovan Dent provides, coming from New Mexico, a Mountain West Player of the Year. Somebody UCLA truly didn't even look at when they were going after that year's recruiting class. And if they did, maybe things would be a lot different. But here we are with the Bruins reportedly paying up to $3 million for Dent in the transfer portal. Dent was not a starter his first year. He was a player, averaged about 5 points per game, played in nearly every game, basically every game for the Lobos in 22-23. But his three-point numbers weren't there. He was a 21%er, 68% free throw shooter, couple of rebounds, decent steals numbers, 30, 25 blocks, a few more assists than turnovers, only 5 points per game. And that was a couple of seasons ago. Tyger Campbell, of course, under the previous recruiting regime, this was before Mick Cronin got there, Tyger came in, started every game, was immediately a 30 minutes per game guy in his freshman year, shot at 26% from three his freshman year, 67% from the free throw line, rebounding the same, 5 assists per game, 26 steals, 0 blocks, all right? So Campbell, remind you, he was a 5'11 point guard. Donovan Dent is a bit more athletic at 6'2, all right? So there's a little bit more height with Dent handling the point. Tyger Campbell, though, of course, played his high school ball at the prep level, had to wait that year, had still the extra year he could have used from COVID, decided not to use it. So you look at those numbers, other than the minutes per game and the usage rate, the numbers were pretty similar between Dent to Tyger Campbell. So if you're looking for a comparison between the importance of the two players and their development, you can see a similar career trajectory, all right? From year 1 to year 2, all of a sudden, Tyger Campbell goes from a freshman campaign to leading a team that made it to the Final Four in the COVID bubble. And if there's ever a time you needed a true floor general, somebody who could communicate when the coaches really couldn't communicate at the time with the masks on, you had Tyger Campbell playing close to 34 minutes a game, his career high average for games or minutes per game in a season. All right. And now a lot of that has to do with the tournament, playing overtime, being used a lot in the NCAA tournament. But by that time the season ended, he was playing close to 34 minutes per game. You are hard-pressed to find any time Tyger Campbell was off the floor. You look at Donovan Dent, his sophomore year, 23-24, goes from starting 2 games in a season to starting every game of the last 2 seasons he played in New Mexico. His shooting numbers went up vastly from 50% from the floor to 52%. His free throw shooting, more attempts, more makes, less of a free throw percentage increase. It was more the three-point shooting, more makes, more attempts, better average for Donovan Dent. Looking at Tyger Campbell from his freshman to sophomore year, his shooting numbers improved dramatically. Three-point numbers not as much, but he also got to the free throw line a little bit more. To continue the point, you can see how these guys have progressed similarly. But what makes Tyger Campbell and Donovan Dent so important? The amount of trust placed in them by their coaches. But Dent is a more important piece for UCLA because, hey, he can score 20 points per game. Maybe he's not going to average 20 per game for UCLA, but 16 to 18 points per game, while Tyger Campbell, in his best season, the Pac-12 championship team, averaged 13 points per game. That's after Juzang was gone. That's after Bernard, Riley. That's after all those guys were gone. It was Jaquez and Tyger Campbell. And you had the Pac-12 Player of the Year in Jaime Jaquez Jr. First round selection, Tyger Campbell, 13 points per game, 186 assists, 5 assists per game, which equaled his best average in his career and the most individual assists he had in a single season, and only 58 turnovers. Through 3 seasons, Donovan Dent has more assists than Tyger Campbell did in the first 3 years of his career. He has also a lot more turnovers. The different dynamic, though, for Dent, he's got close to 80 blocks in his career. Tyger Campbell, you look at him, he had 5 blocks in his career. So not only can Dent rip the basketball from you, he can play defense laterally and vertically against some of the better players, whether it be the Mountain West, which is no slouch for competition, or you're going to go play some of the best teams in the Big Ten. You're like, wait a minute, Purdue's ranked so highly because they've got one of the best guards in the country, Braden Smith, who's going to go out there and probably be the Big Ten preseason player of the year like he was last year. And as since he returned, the Boilermakers are a top team or top 2 team in the country. So as much as UCLA is lacking in interior size, Donovan Dent comes in with better shooting numbers than Tyger Campbell. The best three-point shooting season for Tyger Campbell was a 44% season in his junior campaign. Those numbers, or 41% in his junior campaign from 3, and then dipped to 33%. Donovan Dent from 3 has only increased 21%, 37%, 40%. And we saw the guys who were handling the basketball last year, Dylan Andrews, Sebastian Mack, their consistency from downtown was not there. It just was not. So even if there's a slight reduction in production for Donovan Dent from 3, he is a guy that represents something similar to what Campbell was a couple of seasons ago. A great increase in shooting, defensive ability, similar rebounding and assisting numbers to Tyger Campbell. As long as those numbers come down from the turnover standpoint, UCLA will be set. But overall, you look up and down their numbers. They're playing. You got a taller, more athletic, better, arguably better shooter from the floor in Dent because he can get his own shot better than Tyger. Probably will search for it too. And he can do more defensively while sharing the basketball. Now, he had a lot of big players on his team last year. New Mexico was a huge basketball team, and UCLA saw that, undersized, and got cooked. They flat out got cooked in Henderson, Nevada a year ago. But his defensive prowess, his IQ on the court, and his ability to get his own shot from anywhere on the floor is what separates him, I think, from what UCLA had last year for sure, and then how he just slightly separates himself from what was the glue guy for 3 successful seasons of Mick Cronin basketball at UCLA. Tyger Campbell led. Now they're going to get 1 year at a $3 million premium price NIL tag of sorts for Donovan Dent, and I think it'll be worth it. But will it be enough? Is it enough to push this team over the top? That's what we'll talk about next on Locked On UCLA. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries: IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or that long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Hey, you can post your job for free. It's simple and easy, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates to choose from on Upwork. So visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, second segment, we're talking about, is Dent enough? Is he enough to catapult this team to the next level. A UCLA team that finished in the top 4 of the Big Ten, got that first round bye in the Big Ten tournament, didn't help them too much in their NCAA tournament seeding, and they still found themselves as a 7 seed, a very tough road to navigate going to Lexington, Kentucky, having to play Tennessee, a neutral site home game for the Volunteers, and the Bruins fell in the second round in a game where they couldn't get past half court at points, couldn't defend, couldn't score when they had no Skyy Clark on the floor, when they're relying on players that are probably playing out of position, not as a true point guard. Well, Dent, I think, will fix that. But is it enough? Is it enough to put, as John Rothstein says, a top 4 team in the country, or at the worst, a top 15 team in the country? Because they went from, who knows if they're making the top 25 2 seasons ago, to, okay, last year there's a lot more expectation on this team. This year, a lot of the returning pieces, now a year under the Mick Cronin system, you mix in Dent's prowess and the expectation of him just immediately jumping in this lineup as a starting point guard. And the Bruins, at worst, top 15. What they're losing from last year's team, you're missing Sebastian Mack, who has been very close to being a 10-point per game scorer in his career, just shy of that with 9.5 points per game. The third leading scorer for UCLA, Sebastian Mack, is gone. His 3-point shooting numbers, 31%. Got to the free throw line a whole bunch, but only a 42% from the floor. You're losing also Kobe Johnson. Not that Dent is going to fully impact that, but you add on his 8 points per game you're missing. Dylan Andrews, 7 points per game. You mix in with Mack and Andrews, those two guys are going to combine for 16 points per game. Alone, Donovan Dent is going to make up for anything lost by those guys. The defense, the athleticism, the better shooting, the ability to get to the free throw line, rebounding, assisting, just about anything those two could have combined to do. Minutes played. We saw Dylan Andrews get used a lot during his sophomore season, pushing 30 minutes per game. Cronin probably doesn't want to do that with a brutal Big Ten travel schedule, but we'll see somewhat similar numbers from Dent to Tyger Campbell. A little bit less so, but it won't be splitting hairs like max 20 minutes per game or Dylan Andrews 24. We're going to see closer to that 30 minutes per game number that no Bruin averaged last year. All right. So we're looking about lineup flexibility a year ago, who is going to be in at certain times. Dent's starting 5, closing 5, finishing 5, any 5. It's going to involve Donovan Dent. So you just take a look at the production alone. Dent's free throw shooting last year, 78%, 178 free throw makes. All right. We look at Sebastian Mack, who was the leader in free throws for UCLA. He had a worse free throw shooting percentage, 78 less made free throws, and his 136 well less than the 227 attempted by Donovan Dent. So you're like, okay, the guy who can get to the hole and get fouled, Dent, does that at a much better rate, efficiently in the paint, and also converting at the line. So we got a lot more whistles. Now I wonder what the Big Ten whistle will be like, the UCLA whistle compared to being the top dog in the Mountain West. But certainly those numbers have risen steadily from freshman year to sophomore to junior year, that I'm pretty sure Donovan Dent commands the respect, and hopefully we'll get something similar. All right. You talk about 178 points just at the line in a single season. That's a huge, huge need for UCLA that couldn't make free throws. So if you're like, okay, we're losing our best free throw shooter, the best guy who can get to the line, Dent does that at a better rate. Oh, you need somebody to bring up the basketball, and Dylan Andrews play a lot of minutes, facilitate the offense. You've got that in Dent, who I've already mentioned earlier in the podcast has more assists or close to it in 3 years than Tyger Campbell had in his first 3 years of his UCLA career. The thing is, will he turn it over as much as he has in his first 3 years of college basketball? Or will Mick Cronin say this is so much better? As he said after his loss to Tennessee, I'll take talent. Continuity with talent, which is what he brings back with Tyler Bilodeau, Eric Daly Jr., and Skyy Clark. And those 3 on the court, or those 4, I should say, that is a great 4-half. You have Dent as the 1, Skyy Clark as the 2, Daly, who has already come out and said publicly he's going to transition back to the 3, what he's used to. And then you got Bilodeau at the 4, which means UCLA's X factor for the second consecutive season is the production Cronin can get out of the 5 spot. All right. The production he needs for this team to be successful is what he can get out of the 5 spot. No question marks 1 through 4. We are just starting to see the flashes of a Skyy Clark. And if he wasn't hurt, or excuse me, not hurt, but in foul trouble against Tennessee, imagine what those 18 points could have been. The amount of threes he was dropping in there. You got Dent, and you're just like, all right, Skyy Clark, we need you to shoot it. And dish it to him in the wing, on the corner. Daly Jr., and as a matchup as a 3, is a nightmare for any defense. Bilodeau will be a lot more successful swinging the ball in the paint as a 4 than a true small ball 5. Means that Jamerson or Booker, whoever's running around there as the 5, maybe Bilodeau at times, maybe you'll see Daly Jr. do that once or twice as well. UCLA 1 through 4, just with the insertion of Donovan Dent, is better than most lineups. And not every lineup is good 1 through 5. UCLA 1 through 4 can stack up with just about any team in the Big Ten, any team in the country, and I think certainly can hang with Purdue's Braden Smith in Pauley Pavilion, mind you. They're not going to West Lafayette. They are coming to Westwood this season, and that is a big game UCLA gets to host in that one-off versus Purdue during the men's college basketball season. That can define Big Ten championship, seeding, and viability in the NCAA tournament going beyond just the first weekend. So Dent coming in, absolutely enough when you look at, just simple looking at the numbers. Dylan Andrews last year, 37% from the floor, 32% from 3. Similar numbers by Mac, 42% from the floor, 31% from 3. Their free throws made combined between the two, way less attempted and way less made than Donovan Dent did by himself. The assist numbers, well, yes, you see that Dylan Andrews commanded 109 assists himself, but everything that Donovan Dent brings to the table is a significant increase in talent, veteran leadership, and just overall game than those two. And I wish them the best at their new stops. All right, they had some fun, great moments for UCLA, being a part of some teams that won, like Dylan Andrews was his freshman year, or some fun, crazy shot making that Sebastian Mack had, or helping them beat Wisconsin at Pauley Pavilion in a huge season-shifting momentum victory against the Badgers in January of 2025. But Dent is going to take this team to the next level just by simply replacing 2 guys by himself, production-wise. Now, what do the other guards bring to the table for UCLA? I already talked about some of them, but let's go back and talk about what UCLA is returning in this next season on Locked On UCLA. The NBA playoffs, they're in full swing, and every night, highlight-worthy performances. You think about the first couple of games of this last round, you're like, wait, back and forth action. Why am I not getting in on it with the game-winning shots and getting in on the action? Well, FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. What if you combined your live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds? You're like, wait a minute, I suspect a Pacer comeback, or I suspect a Knicks comeback. And you're like, I could see that coming a mile away. Well, then maybe what would you like to do with a $200 bonus in bets, adding to this excitement if your first $5 bet hits? Well, if you're new to FanDuel, it's perfect to sign up. It's a perfect time. Head to FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every more with FanDuel, and the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Cruising on to the final segment of Locked On UCLA, we're talking, what's the rest of the guards for UCLA? All right, you're sitting there, you got Skyy Clark, who I obviously expect to start. You got Trent Perry as a key returner, and when Perry returned, it's pretty much had the writing on the wall that there's no Dylan Andrews, no Sebastian Mack coming back, with Donovan Dent coming in. You've got Jamar Brown, who could be a starting or backup wing. Eric Daly Jr., who shifts to the 3, so is technically in this conversation. How do the Bruins turn into a roster that is competitive? Well, a lot of it is about the development of Trent Perry from freshman to sophomore year. And if he grows a lot more than Sebastian Mack did, I thought we saw a lot less wild play from Mack year 1 to year 2. Trent Perry, it left a lot to be desired with his limited usage rate from year 1 to year 2. I talked about the red shirts in just the other podcast on Locked On UCLA in Eric Freeney. Eric Freeney is that guy that's ready to get coached up by Mick Cronin. High school teammates of Donovan Dent, in fact. And he's like, yeah, I'm used to how tough coaching works. He's a winner. And it took him 4 years to develop and turn to the star of a 20-point-per-game high school player in his senior season for a Centennial team that for a large part of these last 5 years has dominated the CIF Southern Section Open Championships for a good portion of Freeney heading into college, playing with superstars. So it's not like he is going to be scared of playing with somebody that's already a superstar in the likes of Donovan Dent coming to be the big name addition to UCLA. He's already played with him. Trent Perry, he was a McDonald's All-American. Now it's kind of like, hey, let's let him play. Let him get opportunity. And maybe it's Trent Perry who could slot in as a starting 3. He's a bigger guard, undersized maybe for a 3. If UCLA wants a small ball lineup, you can envision it with Donovan Dent, Skyy Clark, Trent Perry, Eric Daly Jr. at the 4, and Bilodeau at the 5. That would be a lineup that would work. Certainly. Let's not forget that Jamar Brown is that guy UCLA brought in from UMKC, a shooting guard who can rebound, that guy who can shoot better than Kobe Johnson, have some good defensive metrics, but also rebound. That's what UCLA was missing last year, the ability to pull in rebounds consistently. And Brown can do that as a guard from a 3 spot. Now, a lot is wondering how can he go from NJCAA to the Summit League to the Big Ten? Well, he's taken the opportunity. Mick Cronin did his homework, and he's like, hey, we're taking a swing on this guy, and I think the Bruins will get a lot of production. I'm not saying it's 25 points per game, but they'll get a lot of value from that transfer, I think, in Jamar Brown. That's the hope for UCLA by bringing in a guy like that, a 1-year guy with UCLA on the precipice of doing something great next year. The expectation is high as top 4 team in the country. You're thinking 1 seed. You're thinking, hey, a college basketball tournament that just finished with 4 1 seeds making to the Final Four for the second time in NCAA history, in the tournament's history. Well, you definitely want to be a 1 or 2 seed and be knocking on the door with a much easier path, much less travel after a grueling Big Ten schedule. So you bring in that. Brandon Williams, who could shift as a small 4 to a big 3. What's his development look like now that he's probably back on age with these guys? He was a young 17-year-old freshman starting in a few games his freshman year 2 seasons ago. Redshirted, he is going to get that opportunity. So the development of those guys mixed in with a lot more from Skyy Clark. The Bruins need a lot from Clark. It's not like he didn't perform, but we saw his brilliance in how he can do when he's really shooting the ball well, confidently from downtown, and just showcasing the handles, the ability to get to the rack, sneaky good athleticism. If he doesn't get into early foul trouble against Tennessee, I bet you it's a very different game. Cronin would have put the ball in his hands so many more times in those first 20 minutes. And I think that's maybe a UCLA lead at the half against Tennessee. Am I crazy for saying that? I don't know. And now you got 2 very capable scoring guards who can shoot. Clark a bit more than Dent. Dent who can get to the line, get in foul trouble, find Clark on the wing, find his teammates down low. And UCLA all of a sudden has got a roster. If those guards can give valuable minutes to the 2 and 3 spots and spare Dent in those 4 to 6 to 8 minutes that he's going to sit, and they're just not -8, -10 when Dent's sitting, then this is a team that can go deep and go places in the NCAA tournament, in the Big Ten, in the non-conference schedule. Make it entertaining to watch instead of this slow, let's bring it up, right? That's why everybody was thinking Donovan Dent would go to Kentucky. Let's go play for Mark Pope's system and run up and down the court. He saw the value of a different coaching style with Mick Cronin. And as long as Cronin's not just like, hey, let's slow things down, go up tempo, run it with Dent, play through Clark. Let's see how these transfers in these second years come through from the red shirts to the second year in Trent Perry. This team could be very fun to watch. The only question mark is at the center spot. They were expecting one guy to stay. He didn't. And now they're fitting in pieces that were projects or, underutilized talents at other spots. I wonder how they're going to fit in between the Jamersons, the Bookers of the world. If the Bruins can handle with the size disadvantage in the paint or get enough production from the wings, then UCLA will be just fine. And Mick Cronin's shown he's done his best work with undersized big men or big men who have their roles defined and they stick to it. And that's how UCLA can win. And I hope that's how the Bruins do it. I believe they can. Now, are they top 4 good right now? They're going to have to earn their way, develop their way throughout the season, the offseason, the summer, the fall, heading into November. And I can't wait till we get more pieces of what the schedule is going to look like. Will it be entertaining in the early portion, or we have to wait to December like last year to see how good this team could be. That's why you got to follow Locked On UCLA. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Tell me what your thoughts are. Is Donovan Dent the piece UCLA needed to win it all, to get to the Final Four? Do you agree, disagree? We'll talk all about that and more. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time. Let's go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.